What's up, NIO family? It's Rey-Jay back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's happening with NIO, Tesla SPY, and the overall market. I'm also going to talk about why tomorrow is going to be a very important day, as we have important economic data coming out, not to mention Jerome Powell's speech. But just note that I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Moomoo link. If you deposit $100, you're guaranteed 5 free stocks. If you deposit $1,000, you're guaranteed 15 in total, not to mention 8.1% APY on invested cash. It's offerings in just 5 days, so check it out before they run out. Anyways, now let's talk about what's happening with NIO. Looking at NIO, we ended up seeing a little bit of a dip right here with a small gap down, some consolidation, as the market itself also dipped a little bit. However, going into tomorrow, we have Jerome Powell giving a speech. If he pumps NIO in the markets, we could be looking for a break of 5.8. As long as we hold 5.6, we should be looking for that potential break for another attempt to get up to $6. And if we lose our 20 EMA, at the 5.6 area, we're looking for a dip back down to fill this gap, taking us down to 5.33. Now, once we get down there, we should be attempting to bounce off our 20 EMA, so it could dip a little bit then bounce, or it could just push up from here. We'll be watching to see which way we end up going. But whether or not we get a big move is going to be very dependent on what Jerome Powell says. So let's first talk about when he's giving his speech and how this could affect us. So tomorrow is going to be Thursday, September 26, 2024. 1 hour before the market opens, we have initial jobless claims and some GDP numbers coming out. Get ready for GDP sales and GDP prices to come out that may cause some volatility. Then at 9:10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, we have Collins and Kruger from the Fed giving speeches, followed by Jerome Powell himself at 9:20 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, 10 minutes before the market ends up opening. Jerome Powell could pump the markets depending on what he says, or he could cause a rug pull. So right before the market opens, we have Jerome Powell's speech. Later on during the day, we have some Fed manufacturing numbers at 11 a.m., not to mention some bill auctions after that, with Kashkari giving a speech. But the main thing was going to be Jerome Powell's speech, to either pump this market or dump it. With Jerome Powell giving a speech, there's been a lot of talk about what he's going to be saying. This is going to be the first time he gives us a speech since the Fed has cut rates during FOMC. So whatever he says is going to be very impactful. Now, if he does continue to imply the Fed has more potential cuts in store, that could help the market pump even more. If he is very, very ambiguous, does not give the market the answers it wants, and he continues to say the same things that the Fed has to do things on a meeting to meeting basis, like for example, and if he doesn't really act as fixated on that happening, of them cutting again or do anything like that, that could slow things down. So it depends on what his intention is. Will he pump the markets right before the election? Will he do something different? We'll just have to wait and see. Right now, the market thinks there's about a 60% chance we get a 50 basis point cut and about a 41% chance we get a 25 basis point cut. So we'll see which one it is. And then for tomorrow, we have Costco announcing earnings after market close. So we'll see how that goes. For NIO, I just wanted to call out that JP Morgan has been talking about it, and they're saying some very, very positive things. They mentioned that with NIO's new product, it makes them very, very excited about the L60. They also are looking at more potential for their sales to go up. So they mentioned they have an $8 price target, and they think that they're going to be looking for more upside as their positive stance has remained unchanged. They also are saying that they see potential for this to grow a lot, especially going into next year. Volume was at about 73 million, so a little bit, a little bit above average. And then we have short volume dipping a little bit. JP Morgan maintains their overweight rating, which is not bad. When it comes to seasonality, Thursdays do tend to be green only about 50% of the time. And September tends to be a good month for NIO, but October does tend to be a little bit weaker. So keep that in mind. It is one of the weakest months of the year. And we're only about a week away from October. In terms of seasonality, we have basically more volatility around 2 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time, not to mention the second to last hour of the day. So that being said, what do I think is going to happen for the markets? In terms of NIO, we're just kind of chopping around right here. If we break this resistance, we're looking for this push for this $6 area. If we lose 5.6, we're looking for this dip right here. We are showing some weakness on the 4-hour, and there is a risk of us testing 5.6, and we'll see if it bounces or not. But it could dip a little bit. That looks a little bit more favorable as we had this high and we're coming down a bit. But this could be us establishing a higher level before we try to continue to go higher, because the overall share price is still technically on a bullish trend. So if we do dip a little bit, we could see this little gap get filled before it tries to bounce. That seems a little bit more favorable to me. But whether or not that happens depends on what Jerome Powell says. Does he give us more information about monetary policy, or does he remain ambiguous? We'll just have to wait and see. For SPY, on the 4-hour, we're trying to hold 568. That's our 20 EMA. If Jerome Powell is more hawkish and the market does not like what he says, if he does not give us the answer we need, if he does not kind of like push the narrative that the Fed's going to cut rates again, this could cause a little bit of a dip towards that 565 area, if not 563, before we try to bounce again. If he causes the market to bounce, we could be bouncing up for 20 EMA right here and start pushing for new all-time highs. It all depends on what Powell says. I do lean a little bit more bullish, though, as he is known for pumping things. Nvidia looks more bullish with the inverse head and shoulders. If Jerome Powell gives us the rug pull, we need to lose 122. If he helps this pump, we need to break 125 and start pushing up for 128. This favors upside. Looks like it wants to push, but we'll see just to be safe. ES looks pretty decent. If we hold 57.75, we're looking for a bounce for 5,800 plus. If we lose this, we could be dipping, but this is favoring a bounce thanks to Jerome Powell. For Bitcoin, we've dipped a little bit, so we're looking to see if we can break past 63,500. If that breaks, we're looking for 64,500. If we lose 62,600, we could be dipping back down. So, in my opinion, we might dip a little bit towards those 62,700 area before it tries to bounce. So, watch and see if that ends up being the case. For other factors out there, we have Tesla. Tesla is once again on an uptrend right over here. I think that this is trying to uptrend very, very nicely. We have a nice inverse head and shoulders, and this could be pushing for that 260 area. If we were to reject and start dipping for 250, this could be dipping lower, but this is favoring a very, very nice looking push. To me, this looks more bullish, and it looks like it wants to go higher. Whether or not that happens depends on what Jerome Powell says. Never forget that Tesla is very, very sensitive to interest rates, and it might be trying to go straight up for 260, depending on what Jerome Powell says. If we get the rug pull, we want to see it lose 250. If that fails us, we could be looking for 248 all over again, and then followed by 244. It's favoring that it wants to go up to 260 plus as we remain bullish, so we'll see if that ends up being the case. NQ looks more bullish. We're trying to push higher for the 20,200 area. If we break that, we're looking for 20,400. The previous resistance becoming our previous support becoming resistance. We also have support at 20,000. If that fails us, we're looking for 19,800. So we'll see if we end up dipping all the way down to these lower levels, or if we continue to push into the 20,000s. This does favor upside, so it still looks quite good. If 488 breaks on the QQQ, we're looking for gap resistance at 490, followed by the gap fill all the way up to 495. If we end up losing 483, we're looking for a dip back down to 477, all the way down to the gap fill. This is favoring that it wants to go up to 490, depending on what Jerome Powell says, but still looks pretty good. For Aapl, we could be forming a flag right over here on Aapl. So when you look at the chart, even though we are at these very, very tight levels, one could argue that we're forming a nice flag and that this could be looking for a breakout soon. This depends if we lose 224 or not. If we lose 224, we're looking for the gap fill down to the 222s. And if we end up holding support, then that could lead to a nice breakout from this flag. But as of right now, we're flagging. We have to give this some time to develop, and we'll see if Aapl ends up getting that bounce or not. But as of right now, we're on a downtrend, so it could dip a little bit lower, but we'll see if Jerome Powell causes a breakout to 228 plus, or if he gives us the rug pull to come down to fill this gap down here. We're waiting to see how things end up going. The IWM looks a little bit more bearish, but we're approaching this support right here, this 216 area. We'll see if we bounce off that or not. The last time we were there, we did see a bounce, so it might dip a little bit more before it attempts to bounce. So watch and see if that ends up being the case. Amazon is basically going to be testing 191.5. If that fails us, we could be dipping down to 189 again. If we hold this, we could bounce depending on what Jerome Powell says. Meta is dipping a little bit. We could be retesting 565. If we lose that, we're going to be looking for a dip back down to about 560. If we hold this, we could try to rebound for 580. It all depends on Powell. For Microsoft, we're making lower highs and lower lows. If we break 432, we remain bullish. If we lose 428, we turn more bearish. We're kind of range bound. This might try to break out higher for about basically the 435 area. So we'll give this some time. For Google has a head and shoulders like structure. We basically have this 163 area as our resistance. If that breaks, we're looking for 165. If we lose 161, we could be dipping. With the head and shoulders, this does look a little bit more bearish, technically speaking, but there's no sign of us losing 162 quite yet for us to truly turn bearish. So we just have to wait and see how it goes and be very, very patient nonetheless. With that being said, I really appreciate you guys so much for listening. So please have a great day. Right now, NIO has potential to continue to uptrend. We may get a little dip first that looks a little bit more favorable here before it tries to bounce. But whether or not that happens will also be dependent on what Jerome Powell says and how we see NIO respond to all of that. So be very, very patient and get ready for Jerome Powell's speech. I thank you all for listening. Once again, his speech is going to be tomorrow at 9:20 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So get ready, guys. Do what you have to do, and I'll see you guys very soon on the next one tomorrow. Thank you for listening again, and peace out.